You've probably heard the saying, silence is deafening. For these men and women, staying silent in the midst of racial injustice just isn't an option.
The hardest part is the idea.
He draws thought-provoking editorial cartoons, illustrating problems within our society that can be polarizing or difficult to talk about.
It's easy to not be involved or engaged or be bored by politics when it really doesn't affect, you think, it doesn't affect your ordinary life. And if you were white, if you were rich, depending on where you lived, I mean, honestly, it didn't matter that Breonna Taylor was killed. It didn't matter that George Floyd was killed.
Louisville attorney Mark Murphy will tell you racism is everyone's problem, but only white people can fix it.
Until we decide to stand with the black community and admit what's occurred in the past, admit what's presently occurring, and realize that it's not going to change until we stand with our brothers and sisters in the community and decide that that's unacceptable. It can't change.
At the height of protest in downtown Louisville, Murphy couldn't sit at home and watch black people protest the injustices against them. He wanted to stand. He wanted to make a statement. As a middle-aged white man, he knew his presence and activism were necessary.
There's still a very small subset of the white majority, commercial, professional population of Louisville who were largely absent from this. I tend to be somebody who asks forgiveness rather than permission.
White allyship runs deep in the history of Louisville. Ann Braden, a Louisville journalist, educator, and organizer, was one of the most dedicated white allies of the Southern Civil Rights Movement. She's been acknowledged by civil rights leaders like the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Reverend Jesse Jackson. The Braden Institute for Social Justice Research was founded to advance public understanding of the civil rights movement and advance social justice work. People like Dan Getteman, a local journalist and historian, stand on her shoulders.
I realized that all I knew about was what I had been taught in school, what I had seen sort of with my own eyes.
Getteman began his own deep dive into the history of slavery years ago and started the Reckoning podcast, which traces the history and lasting impact of slavery in America.
I had stumbled on some information about a slave trader in Kentucky after reading Uncle Tom's Cabin, which I had never read as a child, and learned about a guy here in Louisville whose name was Stephen Chenoweth, who was a slave trader and also the jailer of Jefferson County. And something about the juxtaposition of those two things was both fascinating and curious.
It was through his research that Getteman began to better understand systemic racism.
But once you understand some of this history, it brings what we see on the front pages of newspapers and watch on our evening news today into sharp focus. And you understand that it's just since the era of cell phones that we have seen footage of Michael Brown, of George Floyd, of all these horrible shootings and killings that have happened.
In 2019, New York Times Magazine writer Nicole Hannah-Jones published the 1619 Project to commemorate the 400th anniversary of the first slaves to arrive in America. It was met with so much criticism that lawmakers in Mississippi, Iowa, and Arkansas pushed to ban the content. The Texas House just passed a bill that would limit teacher-led discussions on current events like protest and police brutality.
That's why you see so much pushback against something like the 1619 Project, because if school children start to get properly educated about the history of this country, they become the next generation of voters who maybe don't follow the party line that certain people want them to follow. And so we must do everything we can to suppress that knowledge, put it back underground, okay? Retell the old mythological propaganda of the lost cause. Bring that back up to the forefront.
Rachel Klein, a former teacher who now works for JCPS's Department of Diversity, Equity, and Poverty, says her experience in the classroom led her to want to do more in-depth work to make sure history is accurately taught to students.
Because at the end of the day, there's a set of privileges that I will always have, and I know that I can either rest in them comfortably or I can take advantage of the positions that occasionally will put me into and know that I am integral to the work.
White allyship comes in many different forms. It can be standing up for racial justice, financially supporting an organization, or bringing an often buried history to the forefront. But most importantly, it's the opposite of silence. Carrie Grace, WLKY News.